It's Car Con Carne. Let's eat in the car. It's Car Con Carne. And now here's the star of our show, James Van Alstyne.
And we are live early in the morning here on Facebook. It is Car Con Carne, episode 500, and Car Con Carne is sponsored by our friends at Happy to Meet You. It's Chicagoland's online butcher shop. Essentially, the same steaks, cuts, chops that you would get at a big Chicago steakhouse, at a big fancy high-end place. Same stuff you get from Happy to Meet You, and they deliver it next day. Contactless, which is important right now. Happy to Meet You. I've been eating their food for the past couple of weeks, and it's just been great. I'm so sick of all the crap I've been feeding myself, the garbage I've been getting from the grocery store. Treat yourself. Stock up. Holiday, Thanksgiving is next week. Load up the fridge, load up the freezer. Use my promo code. Today is the last day to use my promo code. The promo code is Carne, C-A-R-N-E. That gets you free local next day delivery and a pound of the Mother Chucker burgers, these giant patties. You're going to love them. I've been cooking with those too. Happy to Meet You is happy to MEAT letter U.com. Use my promo code Carne today or forever hold your meat. So this is weird. This is episode 500 of Car Con Carne, something I never thought would happen this year. And because it's 2020, I can't really do an episode 500 celebration. I can't do it in the way I'd want to because, well, I'm here. I'm literally sitting here like 12 hours a day. So rather than make my guest for episode 501 feel awkward and make them the episode 500 guest, I'm just going solo, something I've never done for Car Con Carne. And it feels weird. Like there are people who do talk radio who are completely comfortable monologuing, completely comfortable just riffing, going off, hearing nothing but the sound of their own voice in the headphones. I've never been that person. Never. I like having people to go back and forth with. I like having conversation and dialogue, and the idea of monologuing for a podcast is stressful, but here we are. It's episode 500, and I'm doing it on Facebook Live in the hopes that other people will chime in or at least show up for the comments on the Facebook Live, but that may not happen. So to backtrack a little bit, earlier this year, I started at episode 300. That was with the band Yes Factory from Rockford. Love them. Then the pandemic hit in March. And I've said this before on the podcast, but I had a choice at that point. I could have stopped the podcast, which was based in my car. I would go to different restaurants every week, meet guests there. We'd eat food in my car. I could have just stopped it altogether when the pandemic hit and just hoped for the best, hoped for a quick resolution of the pandemic and resume things when the world got back to normal. I was worried that if I went that route, that whatever momentum, whatever wind was in my back for Car Con Carne would be obliterated. I would just lose every bit of momentum I had if I just stopped cold turkey. So I kept the podcast going, moving it to this daily in this case, scenario. And I've been really happy doing it. It's given me a sense of purpose. It's given me something to do, something to look forward to. I mean, sure, I still have a job, but it's given me something I can really anticipate every day. And I get to talk to interesting people, at least daily, for the podcast. So it's been super fun. And one of the things I've tried to do, thank you, Zach Smangler, who says congrats on 500. One of the things I've really tried to do during the pandemic is avoid politics. Avoid all the shit you get everywhere else, all the stuff that we're all so fatigued of. Certainly, that stuff has crept into the ongoing dialogue, but I've tried to make this a safe space. Marty on Facebook says, my internal organs are grateful for doing the show without the 1,400 calorie intakes. I don't know what kind of heart-healthy shows he's talking about. 1,400, that's a light day for Car Con Carne. But yes, thank you, Marty, for checking in. So, to date, I've done 183 shows from home. It's about 160 more than I'd originally planned. And like I said, I've really come to appreciate this. I've come to enjoy doing this from home on a daily basis. I like the idea of doing a daily podcast. It's like, well, I did daily radio shows for how long? This has been a nice transition for me. Some highlights I just want to recap. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, I did a town hall. I basically just threw a Zoom link out there, and whoever wanted to jump on could. It was at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were all kind of terrified about what came next, what the world was going to look like, what was going to happen to all of us. And a lot of people jumped on. Now, this was about a week before Zoom bombing really became a thing, and I completely dodged a bullet. That could have gone horribly awry, putting a Zoom link out into the world and saying, yeah, if you want to, whoever you are, jump on. That worked out great. Saw a lot of old friends, new friends, and strangers jump on that. That was a real community building and assuring thing for me. I loved being able to do that. One of the other benefits of doing this nightly from home, sitting at this computer, is being able to talk to people on the podcast who I wouldn't otherwise have the chance to interview if I was still car-based. People like Michael Shannon, actor Michael Shannon, Talking Heads drummer, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Chris Franz, Jared from ChemLab, who's overseas, Steve Kilby from The Church, Live Aid co-founder, Band-Aid co-writer Midge Ure, the people behind the fantastic horror flick 1BR, Jim O'Hare, who I just had on last week from Parks and Rec. That's been a really nice benefit. Thank you, Jonathan, who says, congrats and thanks for the thoughtful entertainment. I appreciate that, Jonathan. Also, the podcast has given me a chance since the pandemic started to catch up with old friends. Todd Zuckerman, drummer from Styx, hands down, one of the best drummers in rock and roll. David Singer, who I hadn't talked to forever. My old friend Tim Virgin, who co-hosted a show for me during the pandemic. Stubby, Scott Lucas from Local H, who was on a few times. And doing the podcast during the pandemic let me make some new friends. I certainly made new connections. One of the most significant to me, and I think significant to the podcast, pardon me, is the relationship I created with Hope for the Day, the local suicide awareness, locally based suicide awareness charity. Talking to those guys, especially during this time, I've had them on 5 times, most recently a couple nights ago, just keeping us all grounded, keeping the conversation about mental health going, especially this year. It couldn't possibly be more important. Thank you, Patrick, for saying congrats. And thank you, Joe, for also saying the same thing, for checking in on Facebook Live. A concept that I have hit on a lot during the pandemic is the way people have responded. The creative community has responded to the pandemic. The innovation we've seen. And first and foremost, drive-in shows. Drive-ins are back. I've always loved drive-ins. I've loved it. It is so textbook Americana. I love the concept of the American drive-in. And let's be clear, Local H was first one in the pool. They were the first one in. The second such things were able to happen, they did it in downstate Illinois. That was, they did it for 2 different shows in downstate Illinois. I went to the first one. That was just transcendent. It was a situation where we had all been cooped up for months, stressed out, stress eating, and Local H came out. They played this totally old school drive-in downstate. And it was just a fantastic, reaffirming, life assuring night of music. I hooked up with a couple of old friends and colleagues, Zach and Giorgio down there, who helped me film it and do a lot of cool stuff down there. But Local H deserves a ton of credit for really finding innovative ways to navigate through everything, whether it's been live performances, just on the fly, all the charitable stuff they've been doing a ton of drive-in shows. I really, as far as taking a lead goes, I think Local H has been right out there. Also, as far as innovation goes, you see things like, God, this past week I went to Rock Island Public House in Blue Island, and we did a podcast episode about that. They basically put together a DIY drive-in setup in their parking lot, like right behind the building, constructed this giant wooden drive-in movie screen, and they're showing public domain movies. I went there to see Carnival of Souls, the 1960s movie with the eerie organ music. I just love how people are finding ways around this. Speaking of drive-ins, Chicago Drive-In popped up with 2 locations. I went to the Peg Boy show. That was awesome. Music Box of Horrors in Pilsen, 31 days or nights of horror. That was pretty kick-ass. I loved watching all these restaurants, bars, bands figure out new ways to do old things, because it's hard. And certainly when this all started, when the pandemic started, there was, I think, an appropriate period of mourning where people just needed time to grieve and figure shit out, like just mourn the loss of business as usual before they could push the reset and figure out how to move forward. And we've just seen some really incredible stuff. I do want to thank, from a personal perspective, podcast sponsors. Obviously, I don't complain much about my situation. I'm employed. I realize in the world we're currently living in, I can't complain about much. I'm employed. I have a home. I'm good. That said, this podcast takes a lot of work, and it does take some coin to keep aloft. So I'm really grateful for the sponsors who've signed on and been part of this during the pandemic. CNH Financial Services, Chicago Drive-In, happy to meet you. All have contributed to the ongoing forward motion of Car Con Carne. And thanks to people who've done things like bought t-shirts. I have merch on carconcarne.com. I even have a tip jar there, which no one ever uses, but it'd be cool if you did. Be real cool if you did. Anyway, as for me, I've been trying to keep busy besides the podcast, besides work. I haven't really done a lot of writing. I've published a couple books, but I haven't done a lot of writing lately, and I miss doing that. So recently, I contributed an essay to an upcoming pretty cool book project. I don't want to give too much away there, but it's a food-related book project. I'll have an essay in that. And I just turned in liner notes for an upcoming album, an album I'm really excited about that's coming out early 2021. So keeping kind of busy with writing. I'm trying to teach myself the guitar. I know how to play Same Old Song and Dance by Aerosmith. That was a big win. Blister in the Sun. I know if you play guitar, this doesn't sound like much, but for me, it sounds like a lot, or it feels like a lot. And my new thing, I had Dan Jarvis from the band Diagonal on a couple times. And the first time he was on, I joked about how awful cassettes are as a medium for listening to music. What a terrible, inferior medium. In talking with him more and thinking about it more, I kind of miss the ability to play cassettes, having the ability to play cassettes. I don't have the ability to play a CD. I got the band Bellhead gave me their new CD single, and I realized, oh shit, I can't play it on anything. I don't even have a disc drive on the computer I'm looking at as I'm doing this podcast right now. So my new thing is I'm looking for used components to rebuild a component stereo system, something I probably haven't had in like 25 years. So I'm going to visit my pals at Siren Records this weekend, get a receiver, tape deck, CD player, and just suddenly live like I'm in 1991 again, because what is old is new, right? Right. So anyway, this is episode 500. Nothing special, nothing big, just my way of checking in and acknowledging the fact that, holy shit, 500 episodes, here we are. And obviously with the way things are going with COVID, I probably won't be back in the car doing things the way I had been for 6.5 years. I would say until late spring, early summer. So I'm here for ill or for well, every night or day in this case, doing Car Con Carne. I wanted to check in for episode 500. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. So that's all I got. Thank you. And if you're watching or listening today on Friday, the 20th of November, please support my sponsor through today. Happy to meet you with my promo code Carne. Thanks a lot.